Hey everybody, Easy Mode here, and I'm coming back at you with another build that I've been playing in Path of Exile 2, Early Access past 0.1.1, and that is an off-meta Incinerate Pathfinder. Seems like a weird combo that shouldn't really work, but it actually does work, and I kind of wanted to make a video to show you my thought process in making this character, and then ultimately how I got this character to its current state today. And just to kind of bring some light on some of the lesser used skills like Incinerate. A lot of people are making like meta skills like I have. A couple of my last videos have been like sort of meta focused skills like Frenzy, Spiral Volley, Frenzy, Witch Hunter, Explosive Shot, etc, etc. And I feel like just doing something off meta, it's early access, we should be playing around with different skills. It just seems like the right thing to do with this type of game. So how did this build really come about? Well, I wanted to play a build that allowed you to move very fast while holding down a cast or an attack skill. And while I'm brainstorming this idea, Pathfinder sort of shot out to me as an incentive to do so. I don't know if anyone's aware, but whenever you do a cast or whenever you're holding down a move to attack, your character slows down. And it's very apparent for like channeling skills, but just imagine you casting Spark and you're trying to run at 30%, your character will probably drop down to like 5% while casting or whatever have you. And the Pathfinder's Ascendancy node running Assault sort of cuts that out. Running Assault allows you to essentially get the support gem mobility, which lowers the movement penalty of using your skills by 30% as an Ascendancy node. This means you can actually double dip with that very same support gem, and now you're going to be getting 60% less movement speed penalty while using a skill. On top of that, Ranger is sort of like a prime candidate to always utilize the Queen of the Forest chess piece. This chess piece allows you to increase your movement speed by 1% per 500 evasion. There's so much evasion on that side of the tree that you can easily stack evasion that allows your movement speed to go like up to like 80% to like 100% plus for your particular character. So I now have movement speed, a way how I can move really fast. Now I got to figure out what spell I want to use, and why did I choose Incinerate? I just thought Incinerate looked cool. You hold your hand out to channel fire, and it fits the bill of using a skill to that channels that you can use while you're moving really fast. However, playing the build and just kind of going through this process of leveling this character, I've kind of learned some of the shortcomings of Incinerate and the issues that it has. I kind of want to talk about the thought process on trying to tackle those as a ranger and how I sort of overcome them to get to the character I have right now. So one of the gimmicks about Incinerate is that the hit will always ignite. So you do not need to worry about building ignite chance on Incinerate or on your tree. However, because the hit always ignites, it does not do great hit damage. I guess to compensate for this low damage, the developers put a 7% fire exposure per stage on it. It goes up to I think 50% at its final stage, which ultimately sounds great on paper, but there is a problem with that, particularly for my build. I'm a ranger that's starting in the ranger area, and all the nodes that I would consider wanting to get are all living on the north side of the tree by the sorceress and witch. And this can be very taxing on my character because I want to get evasion, I also want to get damage nodes, and I also want to make sure that I don't have any issues with like mana, so on and so forth. So it's really taxing on my tree to have to travel up there, spend all my points up there, but also spend points around the evasion nodes, so on and so forth. And it makes it very hard for me to justify being a Pathfinder if I was trying to utilize the, I guess, straightforward route of fire exposure with Incinerate. So as I was going through looking at the different uniques that I could possibly utilize on the build, I came across a ring that would be able to help me solve the problem of needing fire exposure for the build. And that is a Blackflame Aniston ring. So the Blackflame Aniston ring allows your ignites to actually do chaos damage instead of fire damage. You still are able to scale your Incinerate with fire damage. You still can scale the ignites with magnitude as on jewelry as well as the passive tree, but the actual damage being done to the mob by that ignite is now chaos. This helped me eliminate the need for fire exposure, and this also allowed me to be a lot more flexible with my passive tree, and you don't have to invest so much in the north side of the tree. Now I'll go into this a little bit more detail when I start speaking about how my passive tree looks, because that being able to not need fire exposure on on the tree itself is a really big game changer for this particular build. So now you kind of have the idea of what I have here on paper, an Incinerate Queen of the Forest Pathfinder. It's a rough draft. So the next question is, okay, you've made it. How do you scale it so they can do T15 maps? That's when things get a little bit complicated, and I'm going to talk about the easy stuff first in game. So this is the passive tree when it comes to the character. You'll notice that we're still traveling north to this section for Volcano Skin as well as Burnout, but we're not needing to go into the exposure area as well as other areas here to make sure that we're able to do good fire damage on the enemies, such as penetration, so on and so forth. However, because we are traveling up here, we are passing the monk area, and the monk area is fantastic for evasion as well as energy shield. But there's one particular node here, Subterfuge Fast, that's really good for this build that allows us to be more tankier than just a straight up evasion build, because it gives you +2 evasion rating per 1 maximum energy shield and equipped helmet. And if you look at my helmet here, my helmet has 240 energy shield. That's about 480. No, yeah, it's about 480 evasion just from this helmet. And it also gives me energy shield, so I can start utilizing these ES evasion nodes here for the build. Because now that I have energy shield and I'm utilizing these ES evasion nodes, I'm able to use things like Ghost Dance and Grim Feast in the build that will make my character super tanky. And now you sort of can be abusing these mechanics for hybrids, where now I have an energy shield that can get overcapped. So I'm looking at like almost like 3.5k to 4k EHP, and I have Ghost Dance that will replenish that energy shield once I get hit per my evasion. But we also have chaos damage on our ignites, and we're essentially playing a chaos dot build because it's a dot, ignites a dot, and it's chaos damage, right? And one of the things that chaos damage, I guess chaos dot builds do to scale their damage is using a curse called Despair. Despair is a way for us to curse the enemy to lower their chaos resist, and this allows anyone who's playing a chaos dot build to sort of scale their damage to do more damage with that dot that comes on that monster. However, there's issues with this build when it comes to sort of logistics, right? The first things first, if I were to turn off my Wind Dancer, give me a second. So if I were to turn off my Wind Dancer, right? First things first, if you see my Wind Dancer is not actually activated on my Incinerate. That's because Wind Dancer requires you to have a martial weapon. Martial weapon can be anything from a mace, a bow, a staff, a crossbow, one-headed maces. All of these are essentially called martial weapons, something basically a caster won't use. Now, to sort of overcome this, I had to place a martial weapon on my offhand. And to do that, you can just click on one of my other moves here, and it always changes to my offhand. This starts stacking your Wind Dancer, and this allows you to get more evasion. When you switch back to Incinerate, you'll notice my Wind Dancer stacks are still there. I do not know if this is a bug or if it's a feature with Wind Dancer. However, Wind Dancer stays on, and this means you can run Wind Dancer on top of Ghost Dance. So you'll notice my Grim Feast and my Ghost Dance turns off when I go to my Wind Dancer, and my Grim Feast stays on. I go back here and I get my Ghost Dance. It starts stacking up slowly but surely. And this is a great, I don't want to say mechanic to sort of abuse, but it makes you really tanky, and it gives you the evasion you need to be able to go to like higher movement speed. So you'll see on my character down here, I'm 108.2% movement speed, and I could probably get a little bit higher with a little bit more investment in the tree. But this allows you to get that evasion you need to be really fast. Another issue with this particular thing when it comes to weapons, not an issue, but another feature I would say. Remember how I was talking about how we needed to scale fire damage and it would have been really hard in the passive tree? Because we, not fire damage, fire exposure. Because we can split our weapons sets here now, we can utilize our weapon 2 set to increase your curse effects for your Despair. And then our weapon 1 set can be focusing on making sure that your Incinerate does really good damage. So now you can cast Despair on your weapon 2, cause the debuff to happen to them with all those effects. You'll gain Wind Dancer while doing that. And you can also drop an effigy to bring out Wither. And then you can just switch back to Incinerate, and you can utilize your Incinerate to do damage based on the tree. This helps a lot with this particular build because now you don't have to focus on having everything on one sort of tree. You can split your tree up to be effective with your passive points, and it kind of ties the build together. So I just kind of want to go over the items really quick. I know I was talking about the Blackflame Amnesty ring here, but pretty much I'm trying to get as much evasion and energy shield as possible on my gear. Majority of my gear is evasion. So you'll see evasion boots, you'll see evasion gloves, evasion chest piece, evasion shield, evasion energy shield necklace, evasion ring. Everything on my character is evasion. I stole this from my stat stacker, just playing around with it. I did have, I forgot what belt. Was it this belt? I think I had like this belt going in there. Ingenuity is not really needed. It's helpful because it gives you more evasion per the resist, and also gives you more magnitude. So it's a belt you could use in this build, but it's not really needed. I also have this energy shield helmet. It's really good, where it gives you a crap ton of energy, a crap ton of evasion due to substitute mask, and that allows you to get your evasion up to, I don't know, 54,000. And that got me to my 108 movement speed modifier. I'm also using a +5 level to skills, fire skills, as well as a +3 level to all spells on my necklace. This essentially allows me to scale my Incinerate further up, and that allows me to do more ignite damage. Now, off to the gems. So first thing you'll notice is I only have one 6 link, and it's my Incinerate. Probably might 6 link my Despair if I wanted to, maybe 6 link Dark Effigy, but I only have one 6 link, and it's my Incinerate. And on this particular Incinerate, in no particular order, I have Mobility, Consider Casting, Searing Flame, Momentum, as well as Control Destruction. Momentum is a great support gem to have, because the minute that you hold this and you move 2 meters, which is not that very far, you're doing 40% more damage. And the whole point of the build is to move like this, like a walking flamethrower, and just kill things, right? Wind Dancer is a very basic setup here. Again, it's only used to get the stacks for evasion. Grim Feast, again, you could just use Grim Feast by itself, but I have Cannibalism and Clarity here. Ghost Dance, the same thing. You can use Ghost Dance by itself. You don't need to reserve the mana here. I was using Blink instead at times. You might have seen some of the clips there. I had Blink. It's okay to use, but I have Herbalism and Fast Forward here. Ball Lightning and Lightning Warp were my way to getting around needing to use Blink, as well as be able to provide Shock Ground. So Ball Lightning is just for me to blink towards the Lightning Warp onto the ball itself and put Shock Ground on the ground. I originally, before utilizing Curse setup here, I was scaling magnitude of shock on my tree, and it was working okay with my fire exposure, but it wasn't really worth it in my opinion. But I still use this to switch to go get Wind Dancer, and I also use it to call enemies. So when they're low, I just Lightning Warp to them and I call them. You can do that on bosses as well. As you'll notice, my Despair's here, and then I have an Effigy to provide Wither. Wither and Despair is how you scale your chaos damage. On the Dark Effigy, I have Persistence, Arcane Tempo, Wither Touch, as well as Ironwood. And on my Despair, I have Expansion, Inspiration, because it costs a lot to cast, Decay Hacks, as well as Heightened Curse. Going through my passive tree here, you'll notice that I do go for some of the mana regen nodes. Mana is an issue on this build. I don't have a lot of mana to begin with. I did anoint conservative casting, and I did path here to mental toughness to try to cut as much mana as I can from the build needed. It cost me 148 mana to use Incinerate, and it's 102 mana personally myself to be able to cast with it. So I cannot hold Incinerate forever, which kind of sucks. I could spend a bit more time to or a bit more levels to get mana regen. Like there's a mana regen node here I could grab 15%. I can go here for mana regen. I can even spend the next 4 points to go here if I wanted to. But I'm really looking to try to effectively use my weapon swap points here. I want to get rid of this exploit node here that allows me to get more damage on hits, put it as real nodes, and then get 3 points to go to vile wounds to increase damage with hits against elemental ailments. But I mean, it's really up to what I'm gonna do here. This character's only level 88. I was gonna try to push it to 90, 91, but I got an idea for another character, so I just wanted to make this video to kind of get this out there. But yeah, that is pretty much this build. It's super fun to play, as you'll notice some of my clips. The only problem that I see with this particular build is scaling of the ignite. My ignite damage is only like 9k, 10k. Yeah, it's actually, no, it's between 6 to 9k. What am I even saying 10k for? I have all these jewels with increased fire damage as well as increased magnitude to ignite. I might need to get like a fire damage, elemental damage, ignite thing to get to 10k. But like map bossing's okay. You're not gonna get hit. They're gonna die. But I can't imagine doing this build on a pinnacle boss, just because the fact that it does very little damage on like map bosses. I can't even imagine how you tickle the pinnacle bosses. And I really wish I could figure out how to make it a little bit better, because this build is super fun to play. Just like running around, just holding this button as you kill mobs. But yeah, anyways, that's the build. I wanted to just show an off meta build, just kind of a build concept that I've been brainstorming about. And hopefully you'll be able to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And if you have anything that can help improve this build, like any ideas, be sure to leave a comment, because I do read the comments, and I do want to make sure that you know, I can make it better, because it's a fun build to play. All right, well, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.